Okay, so today we're doing a sequence I call the mixed bag. It's a mix of hips and spine and has a few unique qualities to it, at least in terms of my sequencing. We'll do 3 postures per set. Usually we do 2 and then rest, but today we'll do 3 poses and then rest. And the way I designed this is to take advantage of some links between the spine, torso, and the hips. So really the body is one. I mean, there's no we think of it in terms of sections or different muscle groups. It's not really how it is. It's all interconnected. So when we're trying to affect our spine, we are affecting our hips and vice versa to a greater or lesser degree. So I just noticed, no one taught me this, just over time as I practiced, I noticed that there were things I was doing in my spine that were affecting my hips in a certain way. And what I wanted to do is create a sequence where we take advantage of that. So if I'm affecting my spine and I'm opening my hips at the same time, could I do something where you're kind of doing both together, or we're enhancing what we're going to do? So the first half of each set enhances or prepares or deepens what we do in the second half. So sometimes the first thing is a hip opener, sometimes it's a more of a torso spine thing. You may be able to feel the difference. You might not know the difference. I might talk about them, but we'll see. Either way, it's a great practice for us. Very well-rounded, getting into the hips and the spine, okay? And we aren't combining them, which we do in certain sequences. And generally what that results in is a more challenging sequence. It's harder. It's more difficult for most people. So this should be a little gentler. There are a couple of challenging postures in here, but that's not a bad thing. Okay, so we're going to start with half butterfly. Take that right leg out straight, left foot to the inside of the thigh. Feel free to put a block under the knee, your forearms, your forehead. You don't need to point the foot or toes in any particular directions. Let everything relax, especially the arms. I recommend just let them relax. You don't need to hold that foot or pull yourself down. And what you're looking for is a stretch here. It doesn't have to be super intense, just a gentle stretch in the back of the right thigh. Those are your hamstrings, and that's what we're targeting in these first 2 postures. Okay, so we just inhale up and then we switch sides. This should not be particularly challenging. It's not most of the time if you don't have an injury or something going on. But if you do and you're having difficulty, by all means, let me know. And I'll be happy to teach you how to modify this as necessary. Otherwise, we're just here relaxing, getting that stretch in the back of the thigh. But you may also feel a stretch along your back, and that's what I was speaking about at the beginning. We're already decompressing our spine a bit, stretching our back a bit, and we'll do that a little more aggressively in the next pose, and then we'll take a little rest. Okay, one more pose, and then we'll take a little rest. So the legs are straight. This is the first thing I recommend, is try this. See if you can come forward here. Same idea, legs straight, okay? If you find yourself, you're like this, okay? You're kind of, your back is, your pelvis is tilting back where you're kind of holding yourself up or you're struggling to come forward, then just bend the knees like that, feet together. Notice my feet are far away from me. They're not this. Okay, this is something else. Even though the feet are together and the knees are to the side, it's a very different stretch. So just bring your feet together, bend your knees until you can relax forward and down, okay? Most people will not have a problem doing this, but occasionally people have trouble with the straight legs. Again, it looks like that, sort of this thing holding yourself up. So we want the pelvis tilting forward, okay? Okay, so that was a lot. Let's take a little break. Gradually make our way back and just feel the back, feel the hips. Good, let's pull the legs in. Just release a little bit of movement. And then hinge up. Good. Okay, next set. This one might be a little more challenging. So taking the legs as wide as they will go. And I mentioned earlier people with tight hamstrings who might feel like they're being pulled backward. So that's maybe doubly true of this posture. So that's happening to you. You can try sitting on something. You can also try just bending your knees until you feel like gravity pulls you forward instead of backward. Okay, so again, I want to feel like if I relax, I come forward, not be pulled back onto my back, okay? So for many people, even with the legs straight, they still will feel that they're being pulled forward. That's what we want. Now we're not finished yet. So once I'm established that I'm being pulled forward by gravity, I come over to my left foot. I'm not mirroring you, by the way, so you're going to be going that way. Okay, so reaching down, holding the foot with both hands. And what we'd like to feel is a stretch here primarily, and then ideally also a stretch here, the inside of the thigh. Those are your adductors. So the main stretch for this posture today is here. These are your obliques, your intercostals up here. So this is what we want to stretch. Now, if you get it here, great. I feel a little bit. I might do this today. But if you don't, then you sort of roll or stack one shoulder over the other. Definitely much more intense here. And I actually think I'll stay with this one today. Now, if you look at my pose, it's kind of awkward. It's not very pretty, right? I'm not making lots of beautiful straight lines, and my shoulders aren't stacked, and I'm kind of crunching up my head and neck here. None of that matters. What matters is that stretch that I get and that this feels safe. I don't feel like I'm doing anything dangerous to my body. Now, feel free to use a strap if you can't reach the foot. Feel free to bend the knee. You can bend the knee, grab the foot, and then work on straightening the leg as it feels accessible or comfortable for you. All right, everybody, please take your time. No rush at all. Make our way to the other side. Now, don't be too surprised if what you feel on one side is different than the other side. I definitely feel a difference. On one side, it's more of my waist, tension in my waist, and then the other side, it feels like it goes into my leg. So again, today we primarily are trying to get the waist. So do your best. And then if you get the leg as well, great. But if you're getting too much in the leg, just bend the leg until you can focus more on the waist and ribs. So I might have to do that on this side a little bit. Trying to get into our sides. That can be difficult to access at times. That kind of side stretch. Okay, let's go ahead and come on out of that. One more pose. Remember, we have 3 poses and then we rest. 3 poses. So this one is frog. We transition to a tabletop and then pretty much just take those knees as wide as they can possibly go. Your feet can flex or point. Your heels can be together or apart. You can stay up on your hands or drop down to your elbows. You can keep your hips over the knees or press them back toward the heels. And you're looking for a stretch in the inside of the thighs, the adductors, also known as the groin, okay? Okay, so let's go ahead and come on up and let's rest. I'm going to choose child pose, but really honestly you can do whichever pose is most relaxing, comfortable for you. Good. Let's inhale. We'll come to tabletop. Let's do a little bit of the bear pose here. So nice counter stretch. Also, nice way to warm up for back bending. We're going to do some back bending in the second half of the class here. So just try and get into those places that maybe don't feel so alive, so awake. Take your time, but when you're done, down dog, and same idea. Just trying to get those parts of my body, like my calves and ankles and toes, they just don't feel very awake or alive right now. So just trying to wake them up. Okay, from there, bringing the right knee toward the right wrist, the foot across the mat, the hips down. And you could stay up here. We're going to be here 3 minutes. So if you like the way this feels and you don't think holding yourself up 3 minutes is too much, be my guest. Otherwise, most people come down to their elbows. So this posture has quite a few variations. First, we want to feel it in here. Okay, this region, this area, those are your gluteals, glutes, adductors. Glutes, abductors, extensors. So the glutes, rotators, that group. Your right foot, which is the foot in front of you, can be flexed or pointed. It can be closer to your left hip or closer to the front of the mat. So you can bring your foot up level with your knee and have your shin bone basically parallel with this front edge of the mat. However, we want to avoid straining the knee or the ankles. So if it's going into your knee or ankle and not your hip, then it's not a good idea for you. It means it's not appropriate. The right knee can point straight ahead or out to the right. The hips can rock to the left or to the right, okay? And you can keep your head held up. You can rest it on a block. You can let it hang. All of those are fine. That's just a personal choice of how it feels in your body. Okay, so let's switch sides. In yin, we call this the sleeping swan, and it's just the yin version of the pigeon pose that you might have done in other yoga classes. Okay, one more pose and then we will take a rest. This one is the Sphinx or Seal. So coming forward onto your belly like so. What we're looking for is just a gentle compression in the low back. So just a little bit of sensation back here. If you feel it here, great. You don't need to do anything else. If you don't, you might want to prop your elbows up on something, a couple blocks or a big pillow or something. I'm going to straighten my arms. This is called seal pose. You can see I was walking my hands back a bit. So I was just trying to get to the point where I'm feeling compression, which is at this point. And it's somewhat intense. That's kind of how I like it. And again, I've been doing this a long time, and generally speaking, I haven't had problems doing this. I have had problems with my back, but those have been caused by other things, that in my life, not from doing this particular posture. If anything, I'd say doing this posture more might be able to help me prevent those other types of problems that I experience. So back bends generally, and whenever I say generally, even if I don't say generally, most things are general. Anytime I make an emphatic statement like, yoga is good for you, like that's true most of the time for most people, but there will be exceptions. There are always exceptions. So whether it's me or someone else talking, anyone who states things emphatically like that, there's a but or not always or most of the time. You can insert those things there. So generally speaking, back bends are one of the most important things you get out of a yoga practice. So if you have trouble with back bends, try and figure out how you can do back bends safely. And you may have to see a yoga therapist or have a private session or talk with a PT. Your back bends may be very, very mild, and that's okay. But generally, our bodies work on a use it or lose it proposition, if you will. That's just how they are. So if I don't use my back bend because I'm afraid I'm going to hurt my back, and so I don't ever do them or I avoid them, then you're going to lose this curve in your spine. It's called your lumbar curve. So part of what we're doing here is kind of an anti-aging thing, that most of us as we age will lose this curve. So by doing this posture, we are trying to reinforce, reinvigorate that curve in our back, that curve in our low back. Without that, we can't stand up straight. It's as simple as that. So when you see someone elderly who's kind of slumped over and they can't stand up straight, this is part of what is happening in their body. They've lost this curve. Okay, gently coming down. Now later, when we do the other back bend on our back, if that does not feel safe for whatever reason, you will just repeat this. Okay, so this is the alternative. We're going to do some more postures before we get there, but just remember this position. Okay, next we have a cattail. I don't usually need to do a whole lot of counter stretching when cattail's the next pose, but if you do, go ahead. I'm turning just so I can continue facing the camera. Hopefully you won't need to at home. So let's pull the left leg up alongside us, like so. Prop the head up on the right hand. You can change that in a minute. And then we'll take this leg, which is the right leg, just gonna do that with the toes, like move it back. Move it so that your thigh is beginning to face the ground. And then you bend the knee, reach back, grab that foot. Looking for a stretch in the front of the right thigh. If you don't feel it, try straightening the leg in front and bringing it closer to your face. If when you grab hold of this foot, it's really intense, try dropping your left knee away from your face, okay? Your head can stay up on your hand. You can also drop it onto your upper arm or on the ground, on a block or some other support. And then you can keep your shoulders stacked or lean or lay back into the pose, maybe getting a little bit of a deeper back bend there, okay? And finally, pulling this foot in is what most people enjoy, but you can also, while still holding it, kick it back. So that's a little more like a bow or dancer pose if you prefer. All right, good. So let's unwind from that one. You can just roll onto your belly. Again, I'll turn just so I can keep facing the camera, but you won't need to do that. Okay, so on this side, we pull the right leg up, right? And again, the higher up it comes, the more intense the stretch will be. Take that bottom leg, move it back as much as I can, and then reach back, grab the foot. Okay, so I should have mentioned this on the first side, but this is our only twist today, so you might have seen me sort of trying to lean into it, and that's the reason why I'm trying to get as much twist out of this as I can. I'm also definitely feeling that in my back and torso, so that's what I look for when I do postures. This might sound strange, but again, if you understand some of what I talk about when I talk about hormesis, hormetic stress, eustress, you know, when the body is feeling pain, there are two possibilities, okay? One is we've reached the limit of what our body can safely do at that time. And so imagine someone grabbing your arm and twisting it behind your back. That's an example of that. You're not getting any benefit from the person twisting your arm behind your back. That's not hormesis. So they brought your limb to the limits of what it can do. And so your body is communicating that to you through pain. It's just basically saying, hey, if you decide to go further with this, if you let this happen, then there's going to be damage done. Okay, so that's the first option. Now, if you were born healthy, then probably you've gone through a lot of your life, a lot of your youth, pain-free. So you can move, you can jump, you can do back bends and cartwheels and all kinds of things, and there's no pain there, right? Hopefully that's the case. If you had injuries or you were sick or something was off, then there may have been. Plenty of people have that. But I'm just kind of talking about best case scenario. Then as we live and we do things, maybe you play soccer in high school and you injure yourself. Whatever it is, maybe you go skiing and you hurt yourself doing that. Maybe you work at a desk and you sit in kind of an awkward way without realizing it. You might begin to create some problems, injuries, things that show up in your body. Maybe not even full-blown injuries, just like that hurts or that aches or that feels weird. That is your body telling you something, okay? And so sometimes people, when they feel that, they try and avoid those sensations. My approach is almost the opposite. When I feel those types of things, I actually try and find ways to elicit that response and stay and breathe with it and allow the body to stimulate and hopefully heal. That's my intention in doing that. All right, let's go ahead and come on out of that. Now, I'm obviously not giving medical advice because I'm not a doctor. I'm just sharing with you my approach to things, how I look for things. Okay, one last posture. So again, if you cannot do this posture, you're going to repeat this or this. If you can, you press back to kneeling. You can sit on your heels, you can sit on a block, you can sit between your heels. Your toes can point back or out to the sides. Your knees can be together or apart. You just want to pay attention to knees and ankles because those are the areas that are can be problematic for most in this posture. So once your knees and ankles are happy with what you're doing, and again, you can sit on a block or even 3 blocks if you need to. Once you're there, see if you feel stretch in the front of your thighs, and if you do, just stay. You're already getting a benefit from this stretch. However, if you don't feel stretch, then you can begin lowering back to hands, elbows onto a bolster, the crown of your head, or all the way back onto your back. And this is the full saddle. So it starts as a quad stretch, and then as we come back, it gets into the hip flexors, and it can really get into our SI joint, our sacroiliac joint. So you might feel that here. And again, that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. So again, what I was speaking about, I'm a lot more likely to hold and repeat a posture that causes me some bit of discomfort or pain than I am to do a pose that's completely pain-free. Again, as I do that, I track. So what I'm looking for is maybe I do the pose, and maybe immediately afterwards I feel a lot of discomfort or pain. But then later, I feel less pain in that area or with that movement. And then the next time I do the pose, I hopefully feel less pain. So I hope this is making sense. I'm finding the thing that's painful. I'm staying there and relaxing there and breathing there. And as I do, the pain tends to shift. It may not go away, but the quality of it shifts. And then again, immediately when I come out of it, there might be more pain there temporarily. But then when that dies down after the rebound, usually, then maybe later that day I feel better. I have less pain. And then hopefully the next time I do the pose, there's again less pain or discomfort. So over the winter, I was not very active, and I did a lot of probably sitting in the wrong way. Again, you might think because I talk about these things, I'm aware of them, that I can avoid them completely. They're not easy to avoid. It's almost, I mean, you may be able to avoid it completely, but it's difficult. It's easy to get sucked into a routine and habits where we're spending hours on the computer working, and our body is not doing well, and we're so engrossed in what we're doing that we just are sort of not aware of what's going on, or we're too busy to take care of it, which is the case with me oftentimes. So now I'm trying to be more proactive because I'm definitely feeling it in my body. So there are many positions that didn't used to hurt, and now there's some achiness or, just sensation where really I should just be free. And right now it's mostly in my neck and my spine. I had a little something in my hip, but I've been working on that. Again, this hip was, I don't even know what happened to it, but it just had pain for a long time, and most of that has gone away. But as I'm starting to pick up my hiking, it's starting to get a little bit grumbly. But again, I think this approach, I can eventually heal it completely. All right, let's go ahead and unwind from that. The other side of it is some of you who watch my content on YouTube, you may have seen the interview I did with Brandy Freeman. She's my physical therapist. And, I will go see her. I'm going to get a massage later today. I'm hoping to see my chiropractor next week. It's again, not just me doing this work on my own. I do as much as I can on my own, but it's a collaborative effort. And again, if you're completely free of pain and healthy, then just keep on keeping on. Like, you don't need to worry about any of this stuff. But what I found is, as well as you might take care of yourself, most people, at least at some point in their life, they'll have some musculoskeletal discomfort or pain sooner or later. And so this might come in handy at that time. All right, let's bring those legs in, give them a little squeeze, shake it off. And then when you're ready, you just come into your Shavasana or corpse pose. Palms up, head centered, chin tucked in slightly, eyes closed. And set a timer for 6 minutes
And just see if you can let your body rest for the next 6 minutes.